Let's talk about it. I don't know. Y'all need any help up here?
Hey, yeah, please. We need a scooter to get out.
I have one right over here.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Just let me know.
Thank you, sir. All right, meeting's now in order at 9:30. Mr. If we could all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could have one moment of silence for whatever you feel needs to happen and what makes you feel good and warm in your heart. There's a lot of good things going on in our country, and there's some things in our country that are going on that we hope will be straightened out and people will be treated properly. So if we could just have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. May God bless El Paso. May God bless America.
All right, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. We're going to start with a roll call, starting with Chair Leeser, Vice Chair Cesar Blanco, Judge Samaniego,
Yes, here.
Representative Chris Canales, Mayor Ramon Cano, Senator Joseph Cervantes, Representative Rudy Cruz, Aaron Chavarria, Representative Mary Gonzalez, Representative Cassandra Hernandez, Yvette Hernandez, Commissioner Ileana Holguin, Representative Willie Madrid, Alderman Walter Miller, Representative Joe Moody, Representative Eddie Morales.
Here.
Mo Moped. Mayor Diana Murillo.
Present.
Representative Claudia Ordaz. Representative Lina Ortega.
Present.
Norma Palacios.
Here.
Mayor Javier Perea.
Present.
Mayor Rachel Quintana.
Here.
Mayor Isela Reyes. Sam Rodriguez. Representative Isabel Salcido. Ellen Smythe. Mayor Anthony Turner. Tomas Trevino. And City Manager Terry Weston. Great, thank you. So we do have quorum.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so moving on to the agenda for discussion and action. Item number 1 is consider approval of the minutes of the February 23rd, 2024 TPB meeting.
We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item number 2, consider authorizing the executive director to sign a letter of support for the City of El Paso Mass Transit Department, Sun Metro, for the fiscal year 2024 FTA low or no emission and buses and bus facilities grant program. Here we have a representative from Sun Metro, Mr. Jerry DeMuro.
Good morning. I'm Jerry DeMuro. I'm the Deputy Transit Officer for Sun Metro. We are in the process of applying for the FY24 low or no emissions grant program for bus and bus facilities. Next slide, please. So the grant is to purchase buses as well as to install canopies over the bus yard to keep the buses cool. So our current bus inventory, we have 166 buses, 55 of them are 60 foot, they're the Brios, 69 are 40 foot, and 42 are 35 foot. All the bus fleet is fueled by compressed natural gas, so it's a low emission. Next slide, please. So according to the bus industries, or the average miles on 32 of our buses is about 785,000 miles. Some are at 850,000 miles. The life of a bus, life of a bus typically is 12 years or 500,000 miles. We've extended the life of these buses by replacing transmissions and engines over time, but it is time to replace the buses. We have a total of 32 units that have the average mileage of 785,000, so we do need to replace those. Next slide, please. As far as the facility enhancements, the solar the canopies, this is an aerial shot of our dispatch facility out on Montana. You see those big squares in front of the building? Those big squares are canopies, and they cover our buses to protect them from the heat. So when the buses take off, they're not really, really hot. And if you see the area where the buses are parked, the arrow is pointed to, when this facility was built, the foundations for additional canopies were put in place. So the foundations are all there. We just need to install the canopies. The other thing to note about the canopies is they are all oriented to maximize the potential for solar. So we are seeking out funding opportunities to put solar on the canopies themselves. Each canopy is about 20,000 square feet. Next slide, please. So this is the grant budget. It's, and I can't read that from here. So the total budget for our project is $32.9 million. We are having transportation development credits of $2.7 million, and our grant request of $30.6 million, basically, with a city match of $2.2 million. That's about a 7% match. Next slide, please. Next slide. So what our request is that the Transportation Policy Board authorize the Executive Director to sign a letter of support for the City of El Paso Mass Transit Department for the application for the FY24 low or no emissions grant bus program. It's important to note that we applied for a grant in FY23 under the similar program. We were not awarded that grant, so we feel our chances of getting an award this year are good. We also had applied for the program in 2022, and we did receive a grant for up to 50 electric vehicles for our paratransit fleet. And that project is moving forward, should go into construction within the next 9 months. Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions? Representative Hernandez?
So the other thing that I wanted to remind our group is that we have a lot of sprawling that requires a lot of driving with our Sun Metros. So it does have a bigger wear and tear on our vehicles. The city's goal is to look at electrification, but at this time it's not viable because the market has not met up to the needs of the greater buses. So I know that I even had that question, and I got a little bit of clarification is these will last maybe 10 to 15 years, but the hope is that the city can transition 100% to electrification. But the technology is not there yet. But because of the sprawling and the long distance to the Tierra Estas and West Side, it has a greater wear and tear to our buses.
Correct. We put about 300 miles a day on each bus.
Any other comments or questions? The motion to approve, there a second? Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Please speak up.
Sorry, yes. We haven't had enough coffee yet. I'll work on it. Yeah,
Thank
give me
you.
a couple more cups.
All right. Item number 3.
Hold on 1 second, please, sir. I think we, I don't know if we have anybody that signed up for open comment period. We did skip that. Do we have anyone signed up?
We don't have open comment.
All right, we don't have anyone signed up, so we'll move forward. Thank you.
All right. Item number 3 is consider authorizing the Executive Director to execute task order number 1 with the El Paso MPO General Planning Consultant for Metropolitan Transportation Plan MTP update schedule and work plan development and on-call general transportation support services for an amount not to exceed $99,631.07. So with this as little background, Chair, board members, as you know, we procured the services of a general planning consultant. So this is the first work authorization that we want to issue to them. It's a little bit of a catch-all so that they can come in and provide services that we may need as not emergency, but something that we may need immediately, like, develop a map, develop something that we may need pretty urgently. The other thing that we are wanting to achieve with this task order is to develop a full-blown schedule of the next long-range plan update, of the MTP update. That's, as you know, we are on a 4-year clock. Since we're in a non-attainment area, the conformity clock expires in November of 2026. So, of course, we have to do a lot of work and be ready to have the consultative partners approve the conformity document no later than November of 2026. So this is, again, the first task order, and many more are going to be following.
Thank you. Representative Canales?
Thank you, Mayor. I have some questions along the same lines as the questions that I asked when we were first approving the contract, not the specific task. I still feel that a lot of these, we're only looking at task 1 now, but a lot of the things that we're asking for from the consultant here in this task are things that I feel we should be empowering our staff to do in-house, whether that's the staff that's here now, or at nearly $100,000, that opens up the option of adding additional staff with the capability to do this. Task 1, we're looking at 2 months of work. If you look at the schedule in the backup for work plan development and NTP update schedule, to me that seems like work that an MPO should be doing in-house. If we're looking at the table of what we're being billed, some of the hours, the billable hours here are being billed at $353.89 an hour. I think for, even if you look down the scale, almost every single billable hour is billed above $100 an hour. And I think that's something that, that I would much rather see those funds going toward an employee at the MPO who we're building up to acquire the skills to deliver these services for us. I don't know if in this year where we need these updates in the next 2 months, we're able to do that, but into the future, I have some heartburn with paying a consultant $100,000 for this 2-month deliverable that to me seems like something we can do in-house.
So if I may clarify or respond to that, first of all, this is intended to be like a catch-all. Doesn't mean that we already committed to spending $100,000 or $99,000, whatever it is. Part of the language in the task order says as they will be performing this work as needed. So if we need something, pretty urgently, right, they can come in and do that work for us and bill us, $300, $500, whatever it is. The second comment regarding staffing versus a general planning consultant. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not that the general planning consultant is intended to replace staff. It's intended to complement staff. So, we bring in the consultant to help the MPO as an extension of the staff. So we will ask him to come in and help us on an as-needed basis. Now, the task specifically for the work plan, for the schedule for the MTP, yeah, we've done it in-house before, but we feel that the expertise that this general planning consultant brings for us, right, helps us do a better job in scheduling all the multiple activities that are necessary to come up with a plan. The going out to the public for the visioning part, improving our project selection criteria, doing a lot of the scenario planning. We have the capability of doing that, and we're going to do that. But part of the idea of bringing this consultant is to help us also improve our processes. Ask them to bring in, best practices, because they do this work throughout the country. Because, yeah, we're able to do this, right? But again, I think the key here is to clarify that we're not committing immediately to pay $100,000. It's up to, which is different from the following task that we're going to be discussing.
Do we have an estimate then of, again, it's a very short window for the task 1, essentially a 2-month horizon here. Do we have an estimate of what is more realistic for what we expect will incur on the contract?
I think it's gonna be somewhere in the ballpark of about maybe 10. Because it's gonna be, so the deadline to get the schedule is, 2 months, right? But we're gonna be working on the schedule, because schedules, are dynamic, right? I mean, of course, we need a solid schedule so that we can program all of our activities and try to follow it as possible. So yeah, it's, again, the key here is, it'll be on an as-needed basis. And the schedule will be in the ballpark of that throughout the life of the task order.
Okay, just for, again, when something like this comes before us in the future, if we're estimating that this task order is going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $10,000, I'd very much prefer to authorize $10,000 with some contingency instead of $100,000. That leaves a whole lot of wiggle room that we don't need. And the specificity is something.
Agree, and that's something that we discussed internally as well. This is intended to be open, again, so that we can have the availability of services that we may need. Instead of coming every month for a $10,000 task order, and then next month come in for another $5,000 task order, and so on. I mean, we can do that, but if we thought that this one specifically, this task order could be, we feel comfortable leaving it a little bit open. And we can obviously come in every month and report on the progress on each individual task order. Most definitely.
Okay, yeah, I mean, again, this is because it's very narrow, and the deliverable is very quick. It necessitates coming back later anyway, right? Because
Right.
this will be completed. Again, here's the schedule up there. I think we'll have to agree to disagree on
Okay.
this particular method for procuring this, but I'm left with a lot of heartburn still.
All right, any other questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
Was this brought and discussed at TPAC?
Not the task order. They haven't.
Because that would help, I think, if we're vetting this and understanding more at that level, having this open discussion so that we could ask the type of questions of why are we utilizing these services? What's the intent? How could we better, as a committee, serve the MPO? I think that would be helpful for this board.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
Second.
There's a motion, a second for approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One opposed. Motion carries. Next item, please.
All right, item 4, consider authorizing the executive director to execute task order number 2 with the El Paso MPO General Planning Consultant for development of the travel demand model and international travel demand model for an amount not to exceed $1 million. And in your backup, we have the detailed cost estimate and budget. So what we have right now is for a total of $999,921.31. The scope of work for this task order is very specific. This is to do the update of our travel demand model that we have to do every 4 years. The key here, again, being a non-attainment, as we are on a 4-year schedule, we need to update our travel demand model. So this time, we're going to be updating the base year, going from a 2017 base year to a 2022 base year. And so, as if you recall, we had a contract that we brought to the board 4 years ago to do that work. In addition to our El Paso travel demand model, the consultant will also help us improve the international travel demand model, which is something that was done in the prior contract that we established 4 years ago, and but that model also needs a lot of maintenance and improvement. And as you know, as from what we presented last month with the work that we did with the Rider 7, with the surveys on the border crossings and so on. Again, part of the task order is to help us improve the travel demand model. these tools continuously need updates and improvements, and so this is what we're bringing to you.
Any questions? Representative Hernandez, followed by Representative
This might be a
Fernandez.
question for council, but do you all have to put who the contract is going to on the agenda item? Because it doesn't seem clear and concise on the agenda item. You have to go through all of the backup to determine who the award would go to. I saw that in the prior agenda item and now on this agenda item. It should, like, I've only seen the name of the contractor, or in this case, the consultant,
Okay.
on the agenda language. It comes across as like we're hiding it, which probably wouldn't be the case here because it's in the backup. But I would ask that you put that into the agenda item in the future. And then my second question is, you mentioned that this vendor, WSP, so we just awarded the last contract to them, that task order. So this one is to the same
Right.
contractor?
Right.
And then at the prior meeting, I think it was like 2 meetings ago, MPO meeting, we did award, I believe it was up to $1 to $2 million to the same contractor.
No.
Sergio?
Just to answer your question, Representative Hernandez, these are task orders that are being issued under the previously approved contract already. So I just want to make sure I understand your comment and your question correctly. They're through requesting your approval for these task orders, MPO staff is not asking you to approve a new contract. The contract, the master contract, which is the one that you're referencing from the previous meeting, is the one that you previously approved. And these two task orders are being issued under that agreement.
That's what I was trying to understand.
Yes.
Okay.
And so how we will, make sure that the language is clear on that next time. But I don't want you to think that there's new procurements or additional funds that are being requested. These two task orders fall under that master agreement from the last meeting.
Understood. And what was the original agreement, the master agreement? What was the amount?
It's just how to divvy up and out.
I don't remember if it had a cap. I think we had a cap of $4 million.
We had a conversation
Yeah,
about
right.
where that formula funding was going to come from.
Exactly.
But is there a more concise answer on to what was the original contract amount and then what would be the subsequent task orders and the total amount?
Yeah, we can research that for you.
I don't have that right now, what the amount of the
Right.
last contract was, the
Right.
master agreement, I don't know. I will tell you that when I reviewed these task orders for form, part of that review is compliance with the master agreement. So it's in compliance with that, but I don't have that total amount that was previously approved for you.
Right, and now I understand your concern,
Yeah.
Representative Canales. We're already using the same consultant to do a myriad of issues. Now, it's on top of that, work that should be done internally, and then you're adding additional task orders, which is a significant amount. And so I want to make sure that we have a closer eye on all of these task orders because there's, the initial conversation was for one specific purpose and then it's continued to what should be administrative tasks. And so I would just ask that you provide a total amount of what the master contract is as you're requesting these task orders.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, let me clarify and just like Sergio said, if you recall, we procured the services of this general planning consultant. It took us almost all of last year. And we made the selection and we brought to this board the selection, the recommendation to select WSP as the contractor. And again, this is for a general planning consultant. And the master agreement that we executed with them is pretty broad. Yes, it has a duration and a scope. But again, instead of doing multiple procurements, we decided that it was better to have one. So the general planning consultant is going to be doing a couple of things. One is to provide support to the MPO where we need it, being an extension of our office. And again, I agree with what Representative Canales is saying. Yeah, we'd love to be able to do everything in-house. The reality is that we cannot hire quickly in order to meet all of our deadlines. We do need help. In addition to bringing the expertise from the outside to help us improve. Right. So that's one area of the general planning consultant. The second area is for them to come in and help us with the specific projects that we have. For example, the Safe Streets for All grant. That is one very clear package that will be a future task order that we'll bring to you all, but that's something very specific. The other one is the strategic plan for the international border crossings. That is also something very specific that we have the funding that this board approved, $2 million, up to $2 million of ST. So that's something also very specific that we're going to bring to this board later on. As
But
soon as we get.
let me interject for just a second, Eduardo, because my assumption was that the original contract was general planning, but what you're presenting here is planning services, and the different task orders. And so I guess I don't understand that you're saying there's a package here and there's a package there.
Right.
But when you start to quantify every different task order, you're talking about different, and it goes up to a couple of $100,000, which should merit a procurement process. And that's my concern, is that it kind of seems like, well, let's do it this way because it's faster, but then it does not allow for a competitive.
Well, let me just interject that. When we did the procurement, it was to cover everything. So we followed the procurement to the letter, following the federal procedures. It was, coordinating with TxDOT and vetted by TxDOT and everybody. So
That's the original master plan you're referring to.
yeah, exactly right. So
About all the task orders.
well, so all the task orders are consistent with the scope that we procured and selected the consultant. So we made sure that, for example, all of this work that we're issuing as task orders, like Sergio was saying, are consistent with the master agreement. We can't bring in, do the procurement asking for a certain type of services and then use that consultant to do something totally different. So all of it is included in here.
I just see for the value of the master contract, I feel like we should be getting all of this done,
Okay.
as opposed to adding additional task orders. And so, I see Sergio raising.
And I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
Representative.
you're fine. Those were my concerns.
And I just want to clarify to make sure that, all of your comments and points are well taken, but I think there might still be some misunderstanding, so I just want to try and clarify. These two task orders, and I hope I'm not just repeating myself to no benefit to anyone, but they are issued under the task order that you're referencing, which is, we'll call it the master agreement. So that's the umbrella, right? And that was procured through the city's, our fiscal agent's procurement process. So full compliance with procurement statutes. And then that's how this contractor, WSP, is selected. Now, the master agreement is very vague because the MPO staff, and I, agree with this, they want to be able to be flexible with what type of assistance they're requesting from the general contractor, right? So these two task orders, they're not additional funds or monies that are being pulled from anywhere else. They're funds that were approved or allocated under the master agreement. So these are the first two assigned, these two task orders are the first two requests from the MPO to that general contractor for work. The master agreement didn't request anything specifically. It was just, you will be our contractor. These will be the terms that govern that relationship. And in the future, when we do want you to do work for us, we will issue you task orders. So these are the two task orders.
Okay, so let me try to understand. So we're not adding, in addition to the original contract in
ma'am.
terms of cost, you're charging to that original contract?
Correct.
Okay, that's where I misunderstood.
That's correct. There's nothing new here other than you're now going to authorize a specific use of funds under that original agreement for these specific purposes.
So it's not 4 million plus 100.
Right.
If this were a new project, they would have to go through the procurement process again. But this all fits under the master agreement that already went through that process and has been approved by this body.
Okay, that helps clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
Professor
I'm
Canales?
glad Sergio was clear.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, again, it's under the same contract. I theoretically, in this case, would have no problem with our general planning consultant doing travel demand modeling for us. My heartburn with this one comes from the fact that our general planning consultant is not doing the travel demand modeling for us. Cambridge Systematics has done they had the previous contract with the MPO for our travel demand modeling. They're being hired here by WSP as a sub-provider at a cost of $867,525. In addition to another sub, I think, who's doing the economic data. So essentially, we are paying for the previous provider to do, our old provider who did our travel demand modeling, plus an additional $92,000 to our general planning consultant for costs that are listed as project administration and coordination. So that's nearly $100,000 just over the top of the old contract in project management alone. It's been mentioned again and again that the general planning consulting gives us flexibility, but we pay for that flexibility, right? They're hiring subcontractors and managing those subcontractors and earning about $100,000 on the top on the contract. I still just, that gives me a lot of heartburn, right? If they're not doing the work themselves, and they're sub-providing that, or, they're subbing that out to other providers, especially the provider who's been doing this for us for years anyway. I don't understand why we're not just contracting competitively and, looking at Cambridge Systematics, who's provided this service to us for years already, if they're gonna get hired anyway.
Well, the way that the general planning consultant was procured, yes, WSP is the lead, but they also bring in, specialty contractors to be part of the team. And we do have a say in how they put together individual task orders, right? So again, we want to have always the best the best of the best performing specific work. As far as, in this case, Cambridge has done the two travel demand model updates. But if you look at the last contract 4 years ago, that contract was for about $800,000, right? That was 4 years ago. Add inflation. And the scope is not exactly the same. We're adding more scope to this. So, we feel very comfortable with the fee in terms of what we had done in the past, right? So it's not that Cambridge is, paying for it and then they add a surge price on that, and that, we're paying overhead and overhead and overhead. I don't think it's a case. So in this one, we feel very comfortable with the scope, what we're asking for and the fee in return.
Yeah, again, it's more just that I still see an opportunity for savings if our general planning consultant isn't able to complete a particular part of a task order that we're hiring them for. I'm looking at the breakdown again here, look, of the hours, because they do have the breakdown of billable hours. They have 52 hours billed at a cost of about $21,000 for project administration and coordination. I would much rather, again, instead of issuing a task order on the general planning consultant, separately procuring travel demand modeling, and this $21,000 of project administration can be done by the MPO. I understand that travel demand modeling, it's difficult technical work. It's work I've done myself, so I understand travel demand modeling. But again, at this hourly rate, it's about $400 an hour. I think that's something that we can be doing in-house on a separate contract if it's a task that the general planning consultant isn't able to carry out themselves.
But again, project administration really means, just managing the task order of the contract, invoicing and stuff like that comes with any consultant contract. Again, most of the work is not being done by the high rates, right? Most of the work is being done by the worker bees, right? But again, that's also the nature of consultant contracts. You do have the more expensive experts that come in, but of course, not putting a lot of hours in it. But again, in general terms, with this specific task order, we feel comfortable in the dollar amount that they're charging us.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I don't really have any other comments. I'll try to hammer home the point here that I think we should only be hiring a general, I'm okay with hiring a general planning consultant, but we should only be tasking them with things that they're able to complete themselves. That's just my opinion on how a task order should work with working under a prime provider.
Representative Cruz?
Yeah, just one last comment. I think that when these types of tasks are given out or the procurement of a prime contractor, there's different disciplines that need to come in and it's like building a home. Your prime contractor isn't gonna do everything. They're gonna hire the framer, they're gonna hire the cement guy, they're gonna hire the sheetrock guy. But ultimately, the prime contract is awarded to one company, which has the ability, resources, and capabilities to go out there and find the people that are gonna get the job done. I think that's what this is here, and they're just being completely transparent when they're showing this table here, who else is being brought in to help get the work done or the scope of work, because the scope of work was placed out there. How you get it done, that's really not what this board is asking for. You know, if that's what we want to do, if we want cost savings, then we're gonna have to give a directive to this table here to go out there and search for somebody to bring in-house and do that for us here. I mean, that's the only way we're gonna see cost savings at the end of the day.
And I think to your point is regardless of subcontracting, the price of the house didn't go up. So that's it's a very simple term way of putting it. Mayor Miller?
I think my point was covered.
Point was covered?
Chair, if I may, just add something. This procurement went through the city's procurement process. And Eduardo, just so you can inform the board, I wasn't a part of that process, but I believe the general contractor, this contractor, and the others who put in bids, they submitted the identities of those whom they would use as sub-consultants. And in this case, I believe Cambridge Systematics was already part of that bid that won, correct? Okay, just wanted to make sure that that's clear to some of the board members as well.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I'm realizing that I think we should do, and, effort to do it next time, is bring back the whole process that we did that we follow for the general planning consultant. Yeah, the contract and all that, the whole idea, the whole concept. Yeah, I mean, that is done in the industry very often when you hire a general planning consultant or general engineering consulting. And, that consultant brings, a team of experts that can help you and be the extension of the office that we want. But yeah, for clarity, we'll definitely, I think it will definitely help. And we'll do that for the next meeting.
Representative Mary Gonzalez?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Representative Canales for asking his questions. Representative Cruz, I think that we all know what contract consultants do, and I think Representative Canales knows. I think your questions, though, help inform the staff as the type of questions we're going to continue to ask as the board. And so by asking questions publicly, we could provide some guidance for you, because I do think there are some questions like consulting contracts can go out, and I'm a consultant, so I don't want to, can go off the rails. And in order for us to make sure that doesn't happen, and while we have wonderful processes, accountability and transparency is really key. And if we're not asking questions and then we get asked by constituents, you just approved an over $1 million contract, and they could ask the very same questions Representative Canales is asking. And so I think that understanding why we're doing some of this is really important. And so I think in the future, there will be further questions about if a sub-provider provided that before, now we have a GC who's doing it for more. What is that cost breakdown, and is that cost breakdown appropriate? I think that's a very fair question, and I think those are questions we should continue to ask. And that was all.
Thank you. And I think based on what Mr. Caldwell said, the way it's going to be brought forward the next time should answer a lot of those questions. Yes, Ms. Smythe?
Since you're going to come back next meeting with more information, what I would really like to see is just a real simple summary of all of your master agreements, because I know we've approved one with UTEP, one with TTI, one with WSP, one with, I don't know who, and then we approved it for this amount of money, and we've issued tasks 1, 2, 3 for this amount. We still have this much left in every bucket. Because that way I think it'd be clear, because we only see you once a month for a couple of hours, right? And so we're like, this sounds so familiar, didn't we already approve it? And so I think it's just a matter of when you post the item, if you can just show this was a master agreement number, whatever, that you approved here for this, and this is task number 7, and now we have $2 million still left over.
Absolutely. And again, we can definitely do that to put everything into perspective, because you're right. I mean, we have the master contract with TTI, the master contract with UTEP, and the whole idea is to have these multiple options so that we can pick and choose the best group to help us with, whatever specific tasks. And also, this is the first time that the MPO hires a general planning consultant. So a lot of questions, and to your point, Representative Gonzalez, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new things that, we may think, as staff, we may think it's clear, it's obvious, right? But these are legitimate questions that we should be able to answer.
And I don't know how many staff you have. I have no idea.
We'll introduce you to them afterwards. Thank you, and I think this brings us to a good point that not only on this item, but future items, I think the backup needs to be a lot more thorough. And if the backup information on all items moving forward are more thorough and additional backup, I think it would alleviate a lot of the concerns as Ms. Smythe is talking about, Representative Canales and other people are talking about right now. So I'd like to see the items moving forward with a lot more thorough information on the backup.
Will do.
Thank you. And with that, do we have a motion? So moved. Motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item number 5 is consider approval of amendments to the Category 9 Transportation Alternative Set-Aside TASA Group Project List to A, program the TA-23 Alamo Alto segment of the PDN Trail, Alameda SUP Phase 3 project using $10,116,919 of Category 9 statewide TASA funds in fiscal year 2026. B, program the TA-23 Homestead Meadows SUP project using $5,438,171 of Category 9 statewide TASA funds in fiscal year 2026. Program C, program the TA-23 Connected Bike Lanes project using $1,859,256 of Category 9 statewide TASA funds in fiscal year 2025. And D, program the TA-23 Paso del Norte Trail Socorro Active Transportation Network project using $16,174,505 of Category 9 statewide TASA funds in fiscal year 2026. And with that, we have Adriana Rodriguez from TxDOT.
Good morning, Board. My name is Adriana Rodriguez. I work for the Department of Transportation. I'm the coordinator for the 2023 Call for Projects TA. And if you recall, these projects were awarded back in October. We got 4 projects totaling $35 million. We have set up these projects and we've been working with the local government. I was here to petition the board for the approval of grouping these projects. They qualify and this will be adopted in the STIP and they don't have to be individually listed in the STIP. Don't know if there's any questions.
Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You guys were too easy on Adriana. All right, moving to item number 6.
Too easy on this.
Consider authorizing the executive director to sign amendment number 3 to the contract between El Paso MPO and Texas Commission on Environmental Quality to increase the amount authorized reimbursement amount by $575,822 using fiscal year 24-25 Texas Rider 7 grant funding. Again, on this one, this is the Rider 7 program that TCEQ runs, and we're pretty fortunate and happy to have been awarded this additional funds, $575,000. The work that has been done with the original amount, the 281, and the 547,000 that has been done to, well, we have used that funding to complete several tools to estimate and calculate emissions, the sketch planning tool, and then the beams tool that we presented to you all that is helping us estimate the emissions at the international border crossings. So the way that the Rider 7 works is that we are awarded that because of, as part of the Rider 7. They're asking us to execute the agreement, but then we cannot begin any work until the scope of work is approved by TCEQ. That's the way that the Rider 7 program works. So with that, what we're asking is the authorization to sign that agreement with them so that we can receive or keep that money eligible. And then we will submit a proposal to TCEQ on what are the specific things that we're going to do with this project, which we estimate will be, pretty much the same, updating our tools to improve our understanding of ozone. And by the way, Rider 7 is specifically for ozone. So we'll keep you informed also on what that scope of work is. But again, this is a grant that TCEQ is offering. It's free money for us.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Just briefly,
I'm not gonna take it easy on you this time. Representative Canales?
just for the future, I think a red line would be appreciated. I know there's the old language and the new language are both listed here. They're quite lengthy. Make it easy just to see the changes reflected.
Okay.
It'll save me the reading.
Do we have a motion? Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
So item 7, Mayor, we're going to ask the board to delete the item, but if I could take a minute to give you some background. This is a similar agreement with TCEQ, but in this case, it would be for PM 2.5 emissions. Rider 7 specifically is for ozone, and this would be for 2.5. We did not receive the draft initial contract from TCEQ in time, so we don't have it. So, we're asking you to delete this, and we'll bring it next month, hopefully.
A motion? Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to delete. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, we're gonna move executive session items up for action.
That's right.
So we'll take the first executive session item, if y'all can look at it, please, which is, I didn't have that.
Executive session item number 1, Chair, is the Executive Director's Annual Performance Assessment. And just to let the TPB board members know, the Executive Committee met earlier today at 8:30 to discuss the items that are in your executive session. And the Executive Committee is going to recommend to the TPB that you take no action on item number 1.
All right, so there's no action on item number 1.
And
Vote on that. And
We
then
need to vote
item
on
number 2.
But the TPB, the Executive Committee's recommendation on executive item number 2 is to extend the Executive Director's employment contract for 90 days. That would be the motion that they're recommending that you all take today. The reason they're recommending that is they'd like to take the next 90 days to do a detailed performance evaluation of the Executive Director. His contract expires at the end of this month. And originally, what you would have been asked to do is to approve or consider extending his employment contract for for a year. But usually, this contract extension is also done at the same time as a performance evaluation is conducted. But there hasn't been enough time for that evaluation to take place. So the Executive Committee is recommending that you all approve extending his contract for 90 days. So someone would have to make a motion.
Evaluation and all y'all can do so. Senator Blanco?
Move to approve.
Second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
To approve, this is to
Opposed? Pardon me?
extend the contract for 90 days.
Yes, sir. That's all it is. All in favor again?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations for the next 90 days. So next time we'll go to non-action items.
So we move on to reports and discussion. Item number 8, TxDOT Travel Survey Program. And we have Sonia Solinsky from TxDOT with a presentation of this.
Good morning, members of the Transportation Policy Board and Chairman. Thank you for this opportunity today. Sonia Solinsky from the TxDOT Travel Survey Program. I'm here to talk about our household and establishment surveys, which we are just began this week in El Paso. Next slide, please. To give you an overview, the TxDOT Travel Survey Program goes to all 23 MPOs across the state of Texas, as you can see from our map here. And we're off in the left corner in El Paso. And we have a landing page, if you can connect onto the landing page link, which gives you an idea that all the active surveys that we're doing at this time on our website. You scroll down, you can see there is El Paso, and this gives us opportunity for awareness, and it is a way for people to link and do sign up for the travel survey. Thank you. And the other thing on this website is we have a video. I don't know if you can do it for me, Gabri. And this is a TxDOT production, which is not. Sorry. We didn't work with Disney on it. Yeah. It would be nice if Disney was with it.
Whether you're always on the move or enjoy just staying home, you can help shape transportation in your area by taking the Texas Travel Survey. Understanding local travel activity patterns and preferences is key to making informed decisions about transportation improvements. So TxDOT and its partners want to hear from you about how you move. Travel by bike, car, truck, or public transportation? Whatever your preference, you can help TxDOT offer smooth, safe, and reliable mobility options simply by filling out a survey in a travel log format. How does a travel log work? You just record the trips you make in one day, whether to the store, school, work, or whatever travel activities you may do. It's all about how you move and where you go that TxDOT needs to understand. This travel log can either be done by inputting your trips manually onto a website or letting your smartphone do it for you via an app. TxDOT will take all this precious data from people like you to predict the future and decide where we need to increase capacity, add more choice options, and simply make life easier for you. So why wait? Click on the drop-down menu and select your area to take a travel survey. Get started now to help keep Texas moving. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you. So this is to give you an understanding of the importance of our travel surveys and what they're being used for, and they're being used for the travel demand model that you all had a great discussion on. Next slide. So we are covering the El Paso MPO survey area, as you can see from this map. We will be going to various locations, businesses and households throughout this area. Next slide. With our household surveys, what will happen is we will, our contracted vendor is ETC Institute, and they have their own branding, which is American Travel Survey. They will be sending out postcards to all the residents in the El Paso area with the recruitment of 2,500 households is our targeted goal in regards to recruitment. Once they have signed up on the website that you saw previously, they will begin the retrieval phase, which is a 24-hour travel date, which is assigned to them during the week and during the school year. So we just started this week, and they will be going through the ISD's calendar until sometime in May. If they use the app, they will have their travel being recorded and on their smartphones, or there are the traditional ways of using a computer-assisted telephone interview, or also through a travel log, a paper log. Next slide. In regards to our establishment surveys, oftentimes referred to businesses, we will be randomly contacting them throughout the area and sending them a contact letter for them to participate. Again, ETC Institute is our contracted vendor for establishment surveys. Once they've been recruited and have agreed, they will receive a field date, and ETC Institute, as you can see below, will be there with blue vests doing intercept surveys at each of these sites. We have a total of 300 workplace locations, which is split between a full site and a partial site. So a partial site will only receive counts, and a full site will also have those intercept surveys, as you can see below. The last thing we have in our establishment surveys are commercial vehicles. We will be recruiting 300 commercial vehicles. In this case, we will provide them a phone that they will put into their vehicle, which is going to retrieve all the travel they do in a 24-hour period in that day during the school year. Next slide. And then we also have our special generators, which are very similar to our workplace establishments. However, they're a lot larger. As you can see, we are going to be going to the international airport here in El Paso, recruiting and getting counts, the UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso, the outlets in Canutillo, Cielo Vista Mall, and the fountains at Fara. So these are our special generators, and we will be doing those also at this time. Next slide. So this is our schedule. We began our project the end of last year in December, and then we completed the development of our survey materials. And here we are in task E, and why I am here today. We just started this week with both our establishments and household surveys, and we will be going through May with establishments, and then everyone takes a break, and then the households will continue on in the fall, and hopefully being closed up by the end of December of 2024 to get all the targets. The final reports will be done the beginning of next year, and then they'll be working forward towards getting that data to the MPO so they can do their magic. Next slide. Again, this is our team, TxDOT, ETC, our contracted vendor for both households and establishment surveys, the MPO, and TTI, which is our interagency partner, which provides us data analysis information. Any questions?
Ms. Smythe?
What is the deliverable? Just raw data to the MPO?
Yes.
Then what are you gonna do with it? Yeah,
We build all that into the travel demand model. That's
This
where
consultant
it
that we
gets.
just approved? So that raw data is going to what we just approved?
We can bore you with the geeky details
No,
for
it just-
2 hours.
When she said, I'm gonna give it to the MPO, she smiled, and I was like, oh, wonder what Eduardo's gonna do with it, so. That's the data for the consultant we just approved. Okay, got it.
But this will be for the model, which is going to be the next group. Right now, they're working on a model from previous survey we did. I don't remember. The last time we were here was 2010, and that's when we did the traditional surveys. So this will be for the next iteration of the model.
So if I understand what you said right, the current model that we're working on is working on 10-year-old data,
Yeah, that's weird.
14-year-old data.
14-year-old data.
Wow.
I'm going to let some of the experts talk more about this.
Yes, the data, the last,
Introduce yourself, please.
Salvador Gonzalez with the El Paso MPO, I'm sorry. So, and I'm in charge of, I'm the manager for travel research and model development at the MPO. So Yes, the last batch of surveys were done in 2010, around that. But fortunately enough, we have also what we call, data from cell phones. That does not give us the details of, trip purposes in many cases, but it's a complement that we use to update information for the new travel survey for the last set of travel models. So even though the data was from 2010, we still use for the 2017 validation, as well as right now, we will be using data from cell phone information. That's something that we didn't have before, and that allows us to, to still use, you would say, old data from 2010 and convert it into good travel information for 2022 in this case. Since this is 2024, it will be used for the next travel survey. I don't know, I beg your pardon?
4 years.
Yes, for the next travel model, I'm sorry, yes.
So is this kind of the typical procedure around the state, or?
Yes. It takes time. It takes time to collect the surveys. It takes time to process the data, analyze the data, and then it takes time for them to run the model. So that's just the nature of how it works. But we have done some externals, calculating with passive data in regards to people coming in, going through, and entering and exiting this area, and that was done in 2017.
So all of these surveys are tremendously important because they really provide, good information that we use for the models. And if you recall, and maybe Salvador can talk a little bit, as the work that we did on the Rider 7, the surveys that we collected at the ports of entry, at the international border crossings that we did in coordination with UTEP and COLEF, that is also something that TxDOT does not provide necessarily, that detailed information for all the cross-border movement of people and vehicles. So that's additional information that we collected locally that's going to be feeding and improving our models as well.
As far as your outreach attempts here locally, we'll plan that on your plan of action, but is there any way that the membership here could contribute to some of that?
Thank you. That's a great question. One of the reasons I am here today is to provide awareness and to let everyone know that this is a legitimate survey. Sometimes we run into some difficulty because households don't want to take the survey because they don't know if it's an actual TxDOT survey. It really has legitimacy. So you're providing that and letting people know. Again, the important thing, our contracted vendor, ETC Institute, is the name that they will be receiving the postcard from, and also the establishments that will also be fielded is from ETC Institute. So they're representing TxDOT as our contracted partner. The other thing is we will be in the different special generators. We were all this week meeting with them and letting them know when we come sometime the end of April, early May, we will be in those locations and making sure that people are willing to take the survey. So your help is greatly appreciated in any way.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to item number 9. This is TxDOT's Truck Parking Action Plan, and we have here a presentation from TxDOT, Kale Dremeyer, and the consultant team. So it's all yours.
Thank you, Director Calvo and board members. I'd like to introduce Andrew Cannon. He's the Section Director for Freight Trade and Connectivity in Austin.
Good morning.
Good to see everybody. Andrew Cannon, as Kel said, I'm Section Director. Glad to be here. I appreciate these meetings even more. For 20 years previous to this, I was the Executive Director of the RGV-MPO. I don't miss it. Thank you. So it's great. So thank you. What's that? I don't know. So Representative Ordaz, driving me crazy. I got a lot of boots. I don't have those. So scary, of course. Scary part is I think my wife has that handbag, so that's treacherous enough. Anyway, on to the business today. We're excited to be here. We're working closely with West Texas, with your community, with TxDOT, with local elected officials, trying to see how we can best look at what the local needs are in the way of truck parking. The demand has become greater and greater upon the region, upon the state. I was just on another call this morning. Commerce with Mexico has gone up 680% over the last 30 years. That's not going to slow. That's our #1 trade partner, and the need for that truck parking is only going to continue to increase. And we need to find a safe haven for our people that are moving. Everything that's in this room came via truck. So it's really important, and we're trying to work with the communities. And I apologize, I have some notes, so I'm not ignoring you. Wanted to get some things straight, and Tomas can correct me, but according to our maintenance division right now, we're investing about $42 million over the next 3 years in maintenance in truck parking. I think that's a pretty phenomenal number in the region. So we're trying to find ways to meet those needs. And Kel is the project manager for the team working with this. We've got a great team with HNTB and WSP, correct? Yes. No. All right, sorry. Cambridge. Oh, wow. All right, I'm gonna get a bill for that. Sorry, I've only had 2 cups of coffee. So, but we're glad for your time to be able to be here. We are working on truck parking availability implementation along I-10. And there's other projects that are taking place with parking expansion in Hudspeth. I apologize if I butchered that. I hope I didn't. As well as Culbertson counties. So it is vast. I'm going to turn the floor over to Kel. He knows much more about this than I do. But we did want to say thank you for being here. We thank some of you that were with us yesterday to visit and go over this. We thank Eduardo for him and his staff, their time, and we'll be here more to have these conversations in the near future as we move forward. And please ask Kel as many questions as you may have after he's through with his presentation, but thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I can go to the next slide. So to give you a little background, this study came out of a statewide truck parking study TxDOT released in 2020. And it looked at all the districts, the 25 TxDOT districts, and prioritized them by level of need to address truck parking. So interestingly, the 2 districts or 2 areas that stood out the highest were Houston on the eastern end of I-10 and El Paso on the western end of I-10. So using data and using that plan as a resource, we then from there developed regional truck parking action plans. So we have 2 studies going on right now in Houston, Beaumont area, and then here in El Paso and West Texas. If you're interested in that statewide study, it is available for download on our website. We can go to the next slide. So to give you an idea of the need and issues, as you may know, truck drivers under federal legislation have to comply with mandatory rest breaks and time off. They also have to log those hours. So from a driver's perspective, they have to make choices between finding safe parking and meeting their obligations under federal law and with their logging of their hours. So things that came out through our surveys and our studies in the statewide study were the need for safe parking with things like lighting, restroom facilities, other amenities like food, showers, things like that. So that's why we're trying to develop an action plan to look for solutions and to not have truck drivers parked in unsafe locations on the shoulders or in neighborhoods where they're creating a safety hazard. We can go to the next slide. So in our action plan study area, for this region, it included the border areas. So we looked at the urban area borders in El Paso, Bridge of the Americas, and down to the Tornillo crossing and down all the way to Presidio. So what we saw, we're looking at the congestion challenges with Bridge of the Americas, the increasing commercial traffic that will be going through Tornillo, and then the backup at Presidio where there are no truck parking locations.
The other day, sorry.
Go ahead, ma'am.
The other day I was in a meeting and some of the Mexican officials were saying that they heard from their truck drivers of less likely using the Tornillo Bridge because of safety concerns on the Mexican side. I just really get uncomfortable when we make assumptions about what's happening in Mexico. It changes a lot, and I just think it's important that, so this area could help draw commercial truck traffic. It could help draw, but I think there are other considerations like safety, and violence potentially happening on the Mexican side of the border. And El Paso is one of the safest cities in the country, but I just think that's critical.
Okay, yeah, and that's the kind of information we need to hear and why we're out doing these stakeholder. So that's, appreciate hearing that. And we can go on to the next slide.
While we're on the,
Sure.
excuse me, is there any reason we left out the Sleta Point and the other bridges?
Well, I think we looked at all of them where we're just trying to give a brief overview, and then we will be around after the policy board meeting concludes if you want to meet with TxDOT staff and the study team to provide additional input and get additional information.
Representative Canales?
Sorry to stop you while we're
Sure.
here, but we're on the border slide. I think that's where a lot of us are gonna have to
Yeah.
stay in this room. So Bridge of the Americas is kind of the edge of my district. But there on my side and on the other side, there's developed a real problem with truck parking specifically. It's kind of generated a little bit of a black market where people are leaving developable lots undeveloped and charging truckers to park their vehicles there illegally overnight.
Yeah.
And this isn't just like one or two lots. This is a problem that's pretty pervasive in that area. I don't know if that's something that the study is able to look at. It says here around Bridge of the Americas space is limited and you don't want to change the context of the surrounding area. But I think in that sense, we do want to change the context of the surrounding area. Like dedicated truck parking would hopefully pull those trucks out of the neighborhoods where they're parking in these empty lots.
Yeah, and that in the final action plan, we'll have, we'll propose solutions and opportunity sites and things like that for local governments to address truck parking.
Absolutely, yeah. For us, I know it's been kind of a whack-a-mole situation, right? Where they pop up on one lot and we learn about these contracts and it's enforced and then they move somewhere else. And they just kind of shuffle around in that area. So I'd love to talk to you about it offline.
Sure, well, hopefully you can stay longer.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Okay, and things we've heard when we've been out in the region, and this is our second round of meetings in El Paso. We've also held meetings in Horizon City on the eastern area of El Paso, as well as the rural areas and Pecos and Van Horn. So a variety of issues we're hearing. Of course, the safety issues. There's also the weather incidents. So at the I-10 and I-20 split, it can be winter weather that can shut that down. There aren't alternate routes. There's a lack of services in that area. So in those small communities with these closings or weather events, they're getting a lot of trucks. If they can make it in, they're kind of getting stuck there, and there aren't the services to fully accommodate them. So we've been working with some of those local communities to develop potential locations or to give grant money to put in some new facilities. Now we can go on to the next slide. Okay, and then it's important to address what TxDOT as a state agency can do to address truck parking. So for TxDOT-led strategies, what we can do is to work with our local partners, get information out through our districts, through our stakeholder meetings, through things like this action plan, to provide resources. But then in addition, there can be TxDOT supported activities to work with the local communities on seeking grant opportunities, assist them with the writing grants, providing information and data. And we've been doing that with Pecos, also talked El Paso Airport. So these are our strategies that will be laid out in the final action plan. And we also, TxDOT is part of a 4-state association called TPAS, Truck Parking Availability Systems. I think we can go to the next slide that addresses that. So from the I-10 border at Louisiana to Los Angeles in California, there'll be implemented 37 real-time dynamic messaging signs that will show the truck parking locations. It'll give information to the drivers, both as road signs and as in-app features. So the number of parking spots available at the next truck parking location and then the following two. In this image, this is a sign in New Mexico that is actually just gone up. I think it's just west of Las Cruces. And you'll be seeing them go up along I-10 and later this year and the coming months. So this is one strategy that TxDOT as an agency working with other states can do to show the drivers real-time availability as they're planning for their truck parking stops and breaks. Okay, and then we can go to the next slide. And then additional program and policy recommendations or actions TxDOT can take awareness, again, raising information, working with our district offices and the public information officers to get out social media or other public resources and information out to the public, to include truck parking and traffic impact analyses, and then to recognize successful truck parking solutions through TxDOT safety awards. And then in terms of timeline, we can go to the next slide. So at the final stages now, as I said, this concludes our second round of stakeholder meetings. And from there, we'll be developing the final action plan. And we are on track to have that publicly released in July of this year. It will be publicly available on our website, txdot.gov. And you can also contact me or any members of the study team if you'd like to get a notification when that action plan will be publicly released. And then we can go on to the next slide. And then we invite you to join us after the policy board meeting. TxDOT staff who are leading the study from the Transportation Programming and Policy or Transportation Planning and Programming Division will be here, as well as our study team from HNTB, our consultant team from HNTB, Cambridge Systematics, and Kleinman Consulting. And that will be in this room immediately following the TPB board conclusion. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So yeah, yesterday we had a very good discussion regarding this topic. So I encourage you all, if you're interested, really to stick around for the more detailed discussion on this. All right, so we're moving on then to item number 10, which are the quarterly reports. MPO Administrative Amendments Report with Ann Gallante.
Good morning, Chair and board members.
Good morning.
So before we look at the data from this past quarter, we're going to go briefly over just what it is we're looking at. So this information is presented to you once a quarter, and it's a summary of all of the administrative amendments that were made to the 23 to 26 TIP and the RMS 2050 MTP during the previous fiscal quarter. So this report is going to cover the time period spanning from January 1st to February 29th. And it's going to cover administrative, so minor changes that did not hit the trigger for a formal amendment that were made during this time period. And just so you guys are aware, this is generally going to include things that are making minor changes to a year. Like it's not moving into or outside of the tip. It's just things that are maybe getting pushed back a year within the tip. Or maybe there has been some sort of a minor change to the funding for the project, either a modest increase, so not exceeding 50% of the federal share, or something is gonna split its funding a little bit differently than how it was supposed to previously, as long as it doesn't hit certain thresholds. And then the thresholds are all contained within our public participation plan, but this is a brief summary of that.
Thank you.
And then so I'm gonna show you the actual chart next. So next slide, please. But generally speaking, these are the high points from what we did. We processed 5 of these. And for context, last fiscal quarter, ending in December, there were 7. So right around the same amount. So 2 of the 5 concerned project funding, and that's because we got updated information from the project sponsors. And then the remaining 3 revised their project years. And this was for consistency with the 25 to 28 tip that we will be bringing forward next month for your adoption. And since those were in the latter years of the proposed tip, so those were not in the years that overlap with the current one. So current one, 23 to 26. Next one, 25 to 28. So years 25 and 26 are in both. And anything that concerns those gets amended in both, but the latter half isn't in the current tip, so only gets adjusted in the MTP. And if that's clear as mud, I can further explain or say it more clearly. So, looking at the chart itself, next slide. All right, let's see. And yes, you can see the summary column. Okay, good. So those first 2 items on there are items to where we got updated information about their financials from the project sponsors. And these were considered minor, and so they got processed as administrative amendments and not as formal amendments that require board approval. But we want to tell you about them so that you're aware of what's in our documents. And the latter 3 are the projects that that were pushed back. And this was done during the 25 to 28 tip development process. So when the new document gets adopted, it's consistent with the information in our MTPs. And so that concludes my report. I'm happy to entertain any questions. And if not, oh, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That was an answer, not a question, sorry.
All right, following or continuing with the quarterly reports, B, C, and D. Well, B is the project completion report, C is a project readiness report, and D is the RMS 2020 report. And we have Gerardo Fierro, again, MPO staff.
Good morning, Chair and board members. I'm here to present the project completion report, the project readiness report, and the RMS 2020 report. Next slide, please. For this quarter project completion report, we have a total of 76 projects, 59 in Texas, and 17 in New Mexico. 21 are under construction or pending to be obligated, and 33 have been completed. Next slide, please. You will see the projects that are under construction or that have been obligated in the next slides. And you will see a small label for the projects that are part of the RMS 2020 report as well. For the city of El Paso, we have CBD 4. The project has a high alert due to the pending direction from Texas on relating the project. We have Rojas dry widening, and construction is on schedule. It's at 60% progress. The I-10 deck classes planning study, the funding agreement with the FHW-8 was executed and studies to continue. The ITAs for Zaragoza and Boda Port of Entries, notice to proceed for construction. Next slide, please. For the County of El Paso, we have Pelicano Drive widening. The project has been obligated and it's at 50%.
But the contractor's notice to proceed was issued on April of 2020. Project is currently on hold due to the default of the contractor and continue working with the Sureti company. The project has high alert. The regional transit startup assistance for fiscal year 21, the AFA was executed. The same for the fiscal year 22. For John Hayes, construction phase, the work started on November 2023. And the last three are all of them are part of the RMS 2020 report. Next slide, please. For the city of Socorro, we have Arterial 1. The project has been obligated and council approved the LAFAA on 2019. Next slide, please. For Horizon, we have North Darrington reconstruction is part of the RMS 2020 report. The project has been obligated. The construction phase has a delayed start. Construction is scheduled to begin in this month, March 2024, due to the procurement of illumination poles and luminaries, and it has a low alert. Next slide, please. For TxDOT projects, we have US 60 to 180 in Montana Avenue Expressways and Frontage Road Phase 1. Project has been obligated. It's at 60%. Loop 375 at Americas Avenue and Joe Battle widening. Part of the RMS 2020 is at 60%. Loop 375 at Americas Avenue, part of the RMS 2020 at 60%. Loop 375 Americas and Joe Battle widening are part of the RMS 2020 at 60%. I-10 widening at East Lake and FM 1281, part of the RMS 2020 at 90%. El Paso Safety Service Patrol Hero Program has been obligated. I-10 widening at FM 1905 to State SH20, part of the RMS 2020 is at 30%. Loop 375 Purple Heart widening is part of the RMS 2020. It's at 30%. Borderland Expressway Phase 2 has been obligated. Borderland Expressway Phase 3 has been obligated. Horizon at Darrington intersection improvements, part of the RMS 2020 has been obligated. Construction started. And Spur 320 Phase 1, part of the RMS 2020, it's at 30%. For the next slide, please. For Doña Ana County, we have Industrial Avenue grade separation.
One question. Sure.
Go back to the. I just have a question on I-10 widening from FM 1905. Is that from exit 2 on the west side to exit 9, Arca? Is that the construction that's going on?
Yeah, that's a construction
eastbound and
going on
westbound?
right now. Yep.
Okay.
From Benton to Mesa Street.
So that'll be completed July of 2025? Estimated. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, we're about a year ahead of schedule right now.
A year. I have a lot of.
So just a quick update on that here after Easter, we're gonna start opening up 2 lanes eastbound. So we're gonna shut it down overnight and remove some of the barrier and do some other work. But we will have more lanes available eastbound.
Can I ask a question on that? So Mayor Quintana, she's not here anymore, but we were having a conversation about what kind of relief TxDOT can provide as a result of the construction and widening, and how that traffic is getting redirected through Vinton. And as a consequence, there's a large concern about fast speeds and the children in the area. Does TxDOT provide any relief to smaller townships or to help with traffic calming measures, temporary traffic
Well,
calming?
we do have police hours available on the contract, and we do have police stationed at the major intersections, so at Donovan especially, to redirect traffic and as a traffic calming measure.
So you're using police, but no like temporary stop signs or temporary?
No, we generally don't do stop signs because it changes traffic patterns, and driver expectancy. And then the potential for a more serious incident or accident occurring just because you've changed the driver experience temporarily.
Well, so what's happening right now, she was telling me it's at 90 to 100 miles an hour through neighborhoods because all the traffic's getting rediverted through her town. And so I just wonder if that was a question she really wanted to ask, but I wanted.
No, that's fine. I mean, we can have that conversation, and if we need more additional police during some of those temporary detours, we can definitely afford that.
Representative Moody?
Kind of adding into the conversation on this project, because like Ms. Murillo mentioned, this is something that comes up a lot on our side of town. When is the Thorn overpass coming down?
It'll be part of the closure after Easter.
After Easter? What is the expected complete date on that?
I'd have to look at the project schedule. I don't
You
know.
could supplement, if you can give us that information. The other part of that is what sort of communication has taken place with the neighborhoods where Roberts Elementary used to be? Those are the folks that are using Thorn for the most part. It's an underserved community. So what type of communication has taken place with
We
that?
generally put out that communication a couple of weeks in advance. We just yesterday decided to take down Thorn as part of the closure so that we only do one closure.
And the way it's gonna be done this time is, it's not gonna be, because I know we've done this in different ways where partial deconstruction with traffic still being able to traverse across the.
Yeah, this will be a full.
Would it be a complete demo and rebuild? Okay. Can I be copied on any of that communication that's going out to the community? Because I've had a lot of questions. I think there's a lot of people in those neighborhoods that don't know that that's coming. And I think that's obviously gonna impact their daily commutes, their daily travel.
And I have a question.
Okay.
What is the app, that we have that shows us where to detour and stuff? I can't remember anymore. And I had it on my other phone, but I would like that app, if we can give you information on that, so we know when there's construction or there's a road closed, we have another option.
Yeah, we have our PIOs do a number of social media apps. And all of them basically say the same thing, but I can get you in contact with them so that you're given every resource that we put out there. But we have Nextdoor, of course, X, and a number of other media outlets that we use to inform the public.
I mean, even though we're in New Mexico, we still have a lot of constituents that come to El Paso or, and then Texas.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. So for the Doña Ana County projects, we have Industrial Avenue grade separation. NEPA is complete for the project and 60% design has been submitted to FRA. For the city of Sunland Park, we have racetrack drive sidewalk installation. This project has 0% construction and it's waiting for sufficient funds. Sunland Park scheduled a NMDOT agreement request from ARF coordination meeting with Clarissa Martinez, the NMDOT grant manager. Next slide, please. NMDOT projects, we have NM 213 widening preliminary engineering project has been obligated, and the NM 404 widening project, part of the RMS 2020. Construction is ongoing. New Mexico 404 is partially closed due to the work zone. Next slide, please. We will continue with the project readiness report. For the project readiness report, we only include projects with alerts, but in your backup are the complete reports for each project. So we have SH-178 operational improvements. And it has a low alert. It's part of the RMS 2020. The low alert is due to utilities being set 2 months prior to lead date. Project elements must be at 100% 3 months prior to lead date. TxDOT commented most of the utilities will not take place until start of construction. Next. We have Sean Hardy Drive Extension. It has a medium alert, part of the RMS 2020. The medium alert is due to environmental document and utilities project elements not being at 100% within 2 months to let.
As I said, project elements must be at 100% 3 months prior to let date. Next one, please. And NM 273 Airport Road intersection lining. It has a low alert. The low alert is due to environmental document not falling in the timeline. It is at 0% within 6 months to let date. Next one, please. Calle Morocco sidewalks improvements from Sunland Park. It has a low alert. Low alert is due to PSNE being at 90% 1 month prior to let date. It has to be at 100%. Next, please. We have the RMS 2020 report status. There's a total of 31 projects within the RMS 2020. 15 have been obligated and 16 are pending to be obligated. 3 projects have been completed and 12 are under construction. Next slide, please. The major changes from the last quarter to this quarter are the downtown 10 segment 2 executive to Copia that was moved to fiscal year 29. The I-10 at Pendle overpass moved to fiscal year 29. Tierra Este or Arterial 1 combined both phases into one in fiscal year 2027. Regional Transit Startup Assistance was moved from fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 24. The projects with alerts are Shanharity Drive Extension, State Highway 178 operational improvements, CBD 4, and North Darrington reconstruction from Horizon. The next slide, please. So this is, this is on your backup. This is a detailed list of the projects for the RMS 2020. Highlighted are the changes from the previous report. And here you can see more detail, all the elements for the projects. And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the last item, Executive Director's Report. I'm not going to take a lot of time on this one since we're going to bring it back to as an action item next month, but it has to do with the SPR grant that we received from New Mexico DOT that is also going to be helping us. Specifically, it's going to be used for the development of the travel demand model, the work that we discussed earlier in this meeting. So with that, that's all we have. Any additional questions for me or anybody else?
No other questions. We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? See ya.
Thank you.